live right now, brother.
Okay,
Live in
okay,
living
great,
color.
great, great. Yeah, I got a little
Wow, I'm
late
glad this
start.
week went fast. We're back here on a Monday. Another great topic. Brother
Yes,
Metamorphosis, aka Neil Frazier. Yes, he has the
yes,
Frazier blood going through his veins. So don't mess with
yes.
him the wrong way. He can give it to you physically, mentally, spiritually, but he's going to do it in a teachable way. If anybody
Yeah.
acts up, remember, it's the blood in his veins that knocked Muhammad Ali down. So we going to get down today. How are you, brother?
I'm good, brother. I'm good, man. Always looking forward to get together with you on Monday. So I apologize. I was running a little late to get back here. And
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
yeah, yeah, but great topic today. I just want to greet everybody in the chat room, the family, and how's it been going out there, man? How's the weather out there?
It's cool. This is a cool African weather.
Okay.
Um, it's
When is the
opposite.
rainy season they always talk about?
That's mainly what it is. We're in the rainy season now. That's like from
Okay.
some people say it different from March, April down to September, October. Then things dry out. Sometimes it makes it
Okay.
look like things might die, but it dries out because of the sun. And then you get rain every now and then, maybe 3 times light in that time period. But that's just the way it works,
Hmm.
especially up here in the mountains, you know. But nature works out perfect because
Oh
see,
yeah. Well,
down near the
it's not
roots
that
of
humidity
everything,
from the East
it's
Coast,
moist.
right? Because of the
Say it
ocean.
again.
It's not that humidity from the East Coast because of the ocean, right?
No. It's just it's weird to explain. We're down by the equator, but
Right.
in this time of the year, it's cooler. I'm not saying it's cold or
Hmm.
whatever, but it's
Okay.
cooler, especially up in the mountains. It's higher up. Everybody complains down in the city, down in the crowd, how hot it is. They've cut
Okay.
many trees down. So now up in the mountains, you have more greenery and you're up higher. The wind, the clouds, it keeps it nice. And sometimes you can leave your window. I always leave my windows open when I sleep, but you can wake up sometime and it's pretty cool. And with the
Okay.
moisture.
Okay.
But only in this time of the year. The daytime is back hot again. And around the time in America when it's cold and Christmas time, for those who
Yeah.
celebrate it, here is piping hot all the time. So
Wow.
you get a little break, but it's nice. Everything continues to grow. It never
Okay.
stops growing. It's not like a seasonal change like that. It's wet, the rainy season, the dry season, and a little cooler up in the mountains sometime in
Hmm.
summertime.
Interest sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, brother, I know that you put in the work with this banner and with your description, which I loved. But if you want to start out with your banner today, this subject is
Sure.
very, very
Sure.
important, especially in this time where there's so much conflict and confusion going on. And then
Yes.
they want to transfer, not want, they are transferring that energy to our people as well.
Yes. Here it is.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
What made me do this?
Hmm.
It's funny that in this world we have a dominant people who dominate through savagery, technology, and deceitfulness, for a
Mm.
few words to describe. So they're
Hmm.
always keeping themselves on top.
Hmm.
Hence the symbolic balls that are up top. But for us who
Ah,
are truly dominant in everything, unless we're drugged out of our minds to not think so, or tricked or misled to be subservient, we're always at the bottom. Now, I'm not saying
right,
this is the way it has to be,
right.
but I chose religion in this banner because the title of the show, Dominant versus Recessive, Origins of Global Color Caste System. So now in
Right.
religion, us being a spiritual people, we submit to the supreme creator, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
these
Hmm.
people have come, got up under the mental hood of our mental and spiritual vehicles and rewired us and turned us from spirituality into their religion that they dominate. So they can
And you
pick
know
the
what's so
figures.
fascinating about that, brother? Is that,
Mm-hmm.
you know what's so fascinating about that? Even with the genetic proof, and we're going to talk about both
Right.
religious, psychological, and physical impacts, but what you're saying is so true because, like I said before, who in their right mind would want to fight against God? So
Right.
that was a
Right.
masterful plot that they did. And I'll show you one more thing that I see, and maybe you can bring it out a little more. But I
Right.
noticed that the ones standing on this side are standing up with some form of drapery that shows that they're dominant, and the ones that are sitting down almost have like a docile look.
Yes, yes, because see, I'm not saying we need that, but the oppressor feels that we need people who look like us to guide us into that subservient
Ah,
mentality.
okay,
You see what I mean?
okay.
So those are the 10% or the
Gatekeepers.
5%. Those are the ones with the secret handshakes. Those are the ones
Mm.
who preach religion, but they're really about serving the oppressor because they're not going to revolt against what's so plain to see. That's why when it would bug me out sometimes when I used to drive the bus in Orlando, Florida, and when I had to work on Sunday mornings when I first started there, I would see the crack pipes and the condoms in the curb right in front of a church where people are coming from that neighborhood and going to the church with the church hats and the nice cars and nice dresses and praise the Lord, everything's good. But in the
Yeah,
same neighborhoods they live in,
yeah,
look at the transactions that are going on. And the
yes,
clinics are full from those transactions, from the transmissions of STDs and AIDS. But then we're
yes,
praying to a God that was given to us, and we're totally oblivious to what's going on in our communities. And
yeah.
so that's part of it. Now, I chose religion in this banner, but
Uh-huh.
it could be economics. It could be
Yeah,
the so-called miseducation system. It could be
yeah.
entertainment,
I
movies that
see
we
you.
watch. It always
Mhm.
has somebody else riding off into the sunset as the hero, except us. So that's
Right.
part of it. So, yeah, many people say, well, that's just the way it is. No, it isn't. Because really and truly, we are dominant,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know who we are. And
Mm-hmm.
we are dominant in our physicality also. Because
Oh yeah.
you can't get us from them,
Oh yeah.
but they have us believing that they're the gods.
That's right.
So we have it in our physicality. So to keep us in this position, because us coming into our own knowledge of who we are, we're a threat to them.
Oh,
Because when we come into the
absolutely.
knowledge of who we are and execute the power that we have righteously to the unrighteous things that they're doing, it overnight, it's a wrap. It's a wrap for
Uh,
them.
yeah, and
But you
imagine
see,
knowing that you're
mhm,
big. The people that can destroy you are there in your face, and you've tried for all these centuries to eradicate them. Imagine how frustrating they must be.
right, right. And in our right mind, you know, we're so, I'm not going to say docile, but they've made us docile, but in our right mind, we are peaceful and we
Yeah,
don't turn on each other.
in our
Even
right
though
mind.
in recent history, since the last few hundred years, dealing with them, we got this spirit of warlike spirit on each other.
Oh
The
yeah.
self-hatred and wanting to kill. They've turned our power in on each other.
Well, as
They studied
everything, we
us,
outdo them. As in everything, we outdo them, even
even in
in
our own
serving their
destruction.
own God.
Right, right. So we really are screwed up. Welcome on in,
Yeah, no.
Diana. Good to see you here, Sister Queen. And this is going to be good.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't wait. Yes, indeed.
We and just to kind of finish up what you were pointing out is that when we walk into those facilities on Sunday,
Yep.
it's like we're in a trance. We're numb to anything happening in our community.
Exactly.
And this is sort of like a spell too, because not only are they numb to it, they turn their nose down on it. Like,
Yeah.
like, okay, I mean, turn their nose up on it. Like,
Right.
okay, well, I'm better than you because I'm getting ready to walk in here and worship Caesar Borgia. So I'm better
Yep.
than you.
Yep.
I don't even like using that name that our people have been forced to say.
Right.
But
Exactly.
it's a serious situation. And I can remember I know you remember this, Lance. We were always taught because a lot of us grew up, even though we grew up in Christianity, it was a dual. When Islam came along, and Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X and those guys start talking about, this geneticist called Yakub.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a mythical. It's actually based on a real African scientist who had a big head that children used to tease and everything. And but they said at the age of 6, he was doing things that people had never seen before.
Wow.
So we have to be careful too, because these people, they know our real history better than us. And so
that's right.
One of the real problems that we have, and we're going to cover this today, is that we have been taught in reverse, totally opposite of what our natural existence is. And that has hurt us more. And we say this all the time, Lance, that when we walked away from nature, that was the biggest thing that we did that hurt our people.
Yes.
Because when you turn against nature, then that means automatically you have to accept something that's artificial. You know what I mean? And so
Exactly.
Since we're spiritual people by nature, and if I'm going to deceive you, I look at the thing that your essence first. And so when I capture your essence, and when I talk about how they capture your soul, or the words they use like sorcery and stuff, I don't like to use their words, but so that we'll know what we're talking about, this is how it's done. Because you got to always think too, that how in the world can 7 to 8% of the people in the world, and I always quote Dr. Amos Wilson on this, how can they dominate the other 92 or 3% of the world, people of color? It's impossible unless at least 40% of the people that they are oppressing are an integral part of their system, willingly.
Yes, indeed.
And that's another element that we face that all other cultures don't have to deal with. We have to deal with that. So we're going to start out today, again, the topic, dominant versus recessive, the origins of the global color caste system. And let me tell you, when you pull back the veil on real history, it's still astonishing. It shows you the type of calculation that it took in order to keep our people in the condition that we're in, and more importantly, to turn us against each other, as you were saying. So I want to start out, if you would put the picture just of the single indigenous woman and Aboriginal woman and the Spaniard, because that's an important, I want to keep that in mind when we go through. Now, there is a groundbreaking, and I was just talking about Yakub and how, let's finish up with Yakub real quick, and then we'll get to Mendel before we get into the presentation. But this dynamic that you're looking at, the European male and indigenous woman, regardless to what landmass they landed on, they made the baby's picture a little light, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But Yakub first started experimenting. He would take, because in nature, in our genetic makeup and spectrum, we can produce any color on the planet. Okay, we're the only ones that can do that. And I remember this white young girl, I guess she was maybe about 16 or 17 years old. And we have to look at the fact that they have been totally taught these lies that their white scholars and academic people have told them. Okay. But she was so frustrated. She was like, well, where did Adam and Eve come from? No, she said, where did black people come from if Adam and Eve are white? Because She's not no dumb. A lot of these kids, if they're told the truth, they know how to find out. Okay. So she said, well, I studied biology and genetics. She says something is not adding up with this story. And so, as you said, leading out with religion, when they recognized that our people was spiritual, our essence was spirituality, then they knew they had to come at us this way. In fact, it was the Catholic Church that told all European nations to subdue what they called us infidel people. But what you see here, this image, is estimated, and this is a lowball figure, that about 500 million, 500,000 indigenous women of all the lands they went to were essayed. That's incredible, huh?
My God.
Yeah. And see, this is why they don't, another reason they don't want to teach real history is because when you start peeling back the layers on this, something you can understand that quote that Frederick Douglass made, that the atrocities against people of color in all lands is enough to embarrass a nation of savages. And it is.
Yes.
When you start looking at, so I was sitting out by the water the other day and I was trying to envision in my mind what our people must have been thinking when they saw these people coming on ships that look like ghosts. What, that's got to be some kind of fear involved.
Yes.
Imagine. It would be like us seeing aliens coming down to the earth.
Exactly.
And so, first of all, our people were in a frightened state. Okay. They're human. Okay. We have and very emotional. So I started picturing, when I was looking at the water, I started picturing our people standing out on the banks of the river. And then you see these sailboats with these big red crosses on it. You ain't never seen a cross. You don't know what that means. You don't know if this means that they're coming to cut your head off, or they cut, sort of like we come to serve man. And in a lot of ways, this is how it turned out for us. Because they came bringing religion, right? But look what they end up creating in all of our lands when they invaded it, like parasites. So, yeah, that's an astonishing number. But we're going to talk about, so Yaqub found out that if he took one of the variations that happened, ever so often throughout generations, because back then, Black people lived to be 500, 600 years old, okay? Because they didn't have all these diseases. The climate was not, messed up. When you got all kinds of chemicals and stuff in it, we breathe fresh air. So we didn't have, and we didn't get stuff in our blood that they cause us to shoot up or whatever. So we didn't have issues. So Yaqub could take his time and play this out for several generations, in which he did. So he noticed that every time he got one of these, we now know the terminology that they use for it. And, we speak the King's English. So let's stop playing games. We don't speak the Medu Neter, okay? So when they figured out that, Yaqub figured out that, okay, if I take one of these hybrids and I breed it with one of us, the natural man, then it could possibly produce something, like a third element, right? And that's what he discovered. And so that's what he started doing all the way until he got to the point where he created what we know today as the Europeans. Now that story was something that really lived in the Black community about Yaqub, at least during our era. during our time generation, that Yaqub was somebody we knew was a master geneticist, almost like a god, which our people were on this planet. So we fast forward all the way to 1856, and you have what they like to say, that they're the father of everything, right? So we have this individual who rightfully so should get credit because he did an incredible experiment over an 8-year period with over 10,000 pea plants. Gregor Mendel, who they call the modern day father of genetics. Now they'll put that modern day in there to throw you off because they know they can't just say he is the father of medicine, because we have the proof with our people in our lands of how all of this originated. So they can't just come out and say that, because all of this knowledge was already here on the planet. So he was called the father of medicine. The father of modern genetics. Okay. And what he did was he discovered what we know today, or what we call dominant and recessive genes. So within the genes, they have the actual substance, or what they call the alias, inside the genes that determine our traits, right? And characteristics. So he would take even the smooth and wrinkled peas. So, he was a guy who could see something in nature in some kind of way. His pineal gland was open. I don't know. And, I don't want to get into this argument with people. White people are going to say, oh, well, y'all always want to take credit for different. But he had to be mixed with something for his pineal gland to be open, to be able to interpret nature. I do know that.
That's right.
And so, the one drop rule in nature. So it's a wrap. But
they had to change that. Huh? They had to change that. They want to take credit. Oh, biracial now.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly. So what he discovered was, if he took, so we get the 46 chromosomes, or 23 pairs from the mother and father. So when he would put the two peas that were yellow together, yellow and green together, it would always produce yellow in the first generation. In other words, the baby you see right there,
yes,
which would always come out brown. Even to this day, even when they deal with truth, they have a hard time getting over the skin color issue. We're gonna deal with that today, because that has torn not just America, the whole world apart.
Exactly.
It really has, and it's got to stop. So what he discovered, he was like, okay, interesting. So the yellow gene from that first generation produced again another whole rack of yellows. Okay. But it was that next generation that you begin to see maybe a couple of green peas sprinkled in yellow peas. You see what I'm saying? So then he knew he could see nature's language. This is a gift that our brother, Dr. George Washington Carver, had. So he could see now nature, this principle that exists in nature that we always want to ignore because we trying to listen to them telling us about somebody coming out of the clouds. But when he saw this, he knew he had the answer right then, just like Yaqub. So what he started doing was, the only time he could produce a whole generation of the green peas was when he put green and green together. So this is what the Aryans figured out when they came here, or Germans, or whatever you want to call them. They're all the same, Indo-Germans. So, and Americans. So so what happened was they figured out, like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing had me dying one time. She said, so they would, our women, or SAR women, then they'd hop from island to island, or continent island. But when they came back a year or two later, they always came back to, for whatever reason. They noticed that the children were always dark. And this set something off inside of them. And they knew that this meant genetic annihilation. This is what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing taught us. And this geneticist, Mendel, discovered this. He even discovered it in the smooth and the wrinkle peas, the same principle, right? That if you put a dominant pea, if it's smooth, with a wrinkle one, that first generation, or that child you see right there, is going to come out smooth.
Yes.
The only way you're going to get a wrinkled recessive gene is when you put two recessive wrinkle peas together. And so once they discovered this, then they put this global caste system into motion. And, so that's the answer to the young white girl. I wish I could answer a question for her personally. This is because she said there's not possible for it to be an Adam and Eve. Because I know, I studied genetics in high school. Right. And white people get all perplexed, like the ones that trick them, that teach them this stuff. And they try to come up. There is no answer to that other than what Mendel discovered. So they know, and we're going to show how, and primarily I want to teach our people the truth so they'll understand what the so-called Latinos have gone through and why we have to give them a chance, to grow. Because in many ways, their understanding of history is like that little baby right there. And that's not a slight, because a lot of them are very intelligent. I'm not talking about intelligence. I'm talking about in terms of how they were indoctrinated and socialized. And we're going to get into that a little bit today. But yeah, that experiment was very fascinating. This is what they discovered and so what they did was, the other part of that, when they discovered that, then they would, and we'll see the origins of this system, and why they knew they had to start telling the indigenous people that they're the ones that had any shade lighter than them were in a different category than them. Okay, so dominant versus recessive genes, the origin of global color caste systems. The conquistadors, the Aryans, the Dutch, and the Spanish colonizers of the Americas began in 1493, first in the Caribbean island of Hispaniola, or Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. And after the initial voyage in that country, in 1492, Genoese mariner Christopher Columbus, or Christopher Colon, under license for Queen Isabella I of Castile. So these overseas territories of the Spanish Empire were under the jurisdiction of Crown Castile until the last territories were taken in 1898. So we see right here that they always ran America, Europe did, from afar once they invaded us. Okay, brother, if you would put that caste system that we're getting ready to discuss up there, those 16 different colors of
Is it this one here?
categories. So I was writing at night. I'm having I'll be able to read my writing. No, go to the next one. It's the one with people on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's it. Can you guys see the writing on that?
No,
You guys can't? Okay.
no, because it's
Okay.
pixelated. It's a very small image.
All
When it
right.
goes up on the screen, it stretches out and it makes it where you can't really,
Okay.
but we can
No
we can
problem.
see the images though.
Okay, you can see the images. I'll explain it then.
Yeah.
So what happened was in this age of exploitation, which they want to call exportation, or exploration, they did not bring religion. The Spaniards saw the dense populations of indigenous people as an important economic resource, and as the territory claimed as potentially producing great wealth for individual Spaniards and the crown. Religion did play an important role in the Spanish conquest and incorporation of indigenous peoples, bringing with them the Catholic Church, peacefully or by force. So the ones that didn't accept the religion, as our people don't want to accept, then it was beaten into them, into the Latino people, like they did you on the plantation. The crown created civil and religious structures to administer the vast territory, and Spanish men and women settled in greatest numbers where there were dense indigenous populations and the existence of valuable resources for extraction. Now, see, that's why all this crap, they're always trying to make black men look like, or he's a cheater, or he's a womanizer, and all this and that. And they set this image through the media of white males like they are the prototype. Okay, I don't want to say phenotype because that's impossible, but prototype of how men are supposed to be. Okay, when we know from history, this is the biggest lie ever told. Okay, so let's go into this global caste system. Now, this actually is from Mexico. Okay, and this is why I'm not trying to take any I'm not trying to make any excuses. I know how a lot of them feel about our people. Okay, I know this personally, but just like with black folks, all of us are not like the ones they try to show doing this degraded behavior wherever they may be, or whatever they're doing. All of us are not like that. Okay. All of us, have the ability to be leaders and impactful, but, because of this image that they show of what black men are supposed to be, in contrast to white men, we have this serious image issue. But let's start with the first image there, Lance. Now, when the Spaniards or the conquistadors first entered into Mexico, they essayed the Indians, the native Indians. So a lot of people I don't know why they don't get this as well. The people, and I don't care who gets angry, I don't play in these games. I deal with real facts of history. The people that they are calling Spanish or Latino or Mexican or whatever, they are indigenous to this land. You can get angry at me all you want. I don't care. So once they made it with them, just like but let me add, they were very dark. Okay. So the reason why what we see today is because of that Mendel experiment that they learned from Mendel, and they learned from continent hopping. And at that time, they could communicate with each other when they saw each other on different islands. But yeah, so now, like Mendel, when he put the dominant and the recessive, even though the male in this case is recessive, the indigenous woman is dominant. Okay. The first generation that comes, that first picture you see, the first generation that comes from this union are called mestizos. Okay. That's what they are called in this global color caste system. You can debate it, do your research, and look into it, whatever. So that was the top of the social ladder when you had the Spaniard or the conquistador from Europe that mated, and many of them they never married them. Okay. So that's where all these terms like bastard child and all of these things come from. Our people didn't know anything about that. Okay. So the other thing that happened here was the next generation, that same mestizo child that you saw in the first picture, right? From the Spaniard and the European. Now I'm going to show you how, from the Spaniard and the indigenous woman, I'm going to show you how psychologically deep, once they found out this knowledge that Yakub put on the earth and that Mendel kind of second to or proved, then they actively use this psychological ploy. And when we get into how they took this to India, the Aryans, we're going to see exactly, because here's the other thing too. When they separate history from you, when they teach you real history, the same Indo-Germans or Indo-Europeans or Western Europeans, or we know as Caucasians, are the same ones, regardless of what country they came from, that put this global caste system into a structure everywhere they went, even in the Caribbeans with the Tainos and Akibalan with our African sisters. So that next generation was a little lower in the sense that now you have a mestizo child who has that one drop blood rule, right? So automatically that meant that you're going to be not in that, I think it's called the planarius. It's called the planarius. It's at the top of that chart when we looked at that other chart, how they broke it down. But they were the ones that were born in Spain, in Europe, which you were not. And they were the ones that were always at the top of the class. So if there was one drop, like the mestizo child they had of black blood, then they considered them in a lower class, even though they were still, that whole first row is pretty much, they're, I guess you would consider upper class, not upper class, because anytime you have that drop in there, they're not going to look at you the same. But like you were accepted, sort of like our bourgeois class. So from the mestizo and the mestizo male and the Spanish female produced what they called a castizo. Okay. Now, along with these different classes in this caste system, there's also the psychological and the spiritual transfer of this, not just the physical aspect. You see what I'm saying? So this is what created this system psychologically. So because the Spaniards told them, if the child that is born from any one of these classes is lighter than the darker one, then you make sure the person that they produce another generation from are light just like them. See, this is where they learned this from. And that's the origin of this. But if you notice, it's the mestizo male, or what they want to call Mexicans now, with the lady from Spain. So from this castizo, and another interesting thing too is that they always, well, you'll see it for yourself. So that third class right there, the castizo, who was the child of the mestizo and the Spanish woman from Europe, and the union of the Spanish woman, okay, was the Espanol. And then finally, the Espanol woman that you see right there, that's clearly dark, okay, clearly. Then you see, I'm sorry, Espanol, the white male, and the Moors, because they, that's what they call our people. They knew our people. The Moors ran Europe for 800 years, 700 to 800 years, and gave them all of the science that they know. So when you had a Espanol or Spanish male and a Moor, then it produced a mulatto. Okay, and as you can see, some of you guys, if you'll be able to blow this up, on your own particular device, right? I'm not going to even go into that second row, but this same type of structure, and each class that you went down, their status lower. Okay, all the way down. I mean, they got some really crazy names. But if you notice, the last one on the totem pole, okay, that's the one that they looked at that was closer to what the black phenotype male is. Okay. So the point I want to make with that, okay, brother, thank you. The point I want to make with that is that now you can see the spiritual and psychological things that people that we call Latinos, even though that's not Latinos, that's incorrect for them to use that terminology. But that's neither here nor there. Brown people, we know that in their culture, these conquistadors that we're talking about with this pompous religious attitude, we knew that they were the ones that put this structure in place, and that the people in those lands in Central America, South America, in the Caribbean with the Taínos, all of them learned this system. It's sort of like, you're not born a Nazi, but you're taught that, so you become one. So it's sort of like that. That's why I say that our people, when it comes to dealing with other cultures, you can't listen, because they do the same thing with us on the media. They focus on our worst 10% of our kids, or adults for that matter. And the ones that we see and we look up to and tell our children we want them to be like, they're shame before the world. Okay. And this is all deliberate. But the last thing I want to say about that before moving on is that the reason why we have to give them a chance to learn and to see this, because everything happens for a reason. You might not see the reason, but that don't mean that it's not happening for a reason because you don't see it. But we have to dial down the emotionalism, because when a person keeps you in an emotional state, you can't think rationally. That's another tool, attack on your pineal gland. You need to calm yourself down, go by some water or trees, calm yourself down, and then use a natural human approach like you're supposed to do, and think like a god and a goddess. You know, it's time to come from under the spell that our people are under. But they were told, because you hear a lot of them saying now, that this is what they were told. We know what they tell. I personally know people from other cultures that have told me what they tell them. These same people that you're doing this with, what they tell them about you. Okay? So the global color caste system and its original imperialistic ambitions, they were responsible for its seeds, the seeds we see today, and their manifestation in today's world. It can only be described as an invasion, and any description other than that is an understatement. So starting with the Americas, which I just broke down, Lance, if you want to put that graph up there with India, we're going to talk about India. Well, you know what? No, leave that one there. I want to finish up with what we, thank you, that one. So this graph really breaks down the graph of people that I just spoke about. So here we see this green part of the graph at the top, the peninsulars, which, as always, usually the 1% or fewest people, most power, and they were the ones that the people, they were from Spain, okay? In other words, they were immigrants. They migrated to America. So if you want to talk about real immigrants, there's your answer right there. And then another interesting term they used was Creoles. Now, we know they use this term because what they had problems with in the beginning is separating the Black people in Mexico, which now they call Afro-Indigenous, and all along the coast, Louisiana, Florida, all along Georgia, South Carolina, they ran into these Black Indians, California, that they said, okay, we'll have to figure out how are we going to explain this. And we see this in the census, how they did this. But that's a topic for another day. But the Creoles in the American South, they are a mixed colonial French, with what you call African American or Black, and then Native American ancestry, which, like always, when they started putting together those lighter skin that they call natives together, then they started producing the $5 Indians. So now, if you look at these two, so they had to separate. What I was just saying is, they had to separate the mestizos from the mulattoes, okay, which we Black folks are, and then the mestizos from the Latin communities. They had to find a way to separate them. So what they did was they used the color cast to lighten up the mestizos, what I was just talking about, And then they, they started, what's the word I'm looking for? Redlining the mulattoes in southern Mexico. Because the closer you get to America, you start getting the lighter skinned ones. So when you got to Central America, then they started, using the Mendel experiment again. And everybody in their culture knows this. I'm not saying nothing that they don't know. A lot of black folks, I don't know if you know this or not, but they were told that and their families would sometimes excommunicate them if they brought home a dark-skinned person, even from their own culture. So think how deep that is psychologically. And then you go into church on Sundays to justify this wicked behavior. You see what I'm saying? So, and here at the bottom, okay, the Native Americans, again, black folks and brown folks, and people of African descent. Okay, so when they talking about when they talk about their culture, then they're talking about the Spaniards that are running the colonial governments. And so anytime they mention, and this is for brown people, and they're learning this lesson, in their eyes, you'll always be a mestizo. And in their eyes, we'll always be mulattoes. We'll always be black. We'll always be native. We'll always be African. In other words, this global phenotype of black people and the creator-creatrix natural system is what these people have always fought against. Okay, thank you, brother. I forgot about that chart, but that explains that people's chart. You guys can probably go over later. Yeah. So they had this dilemma, because now when they went to the American South, and they created this bourgeois class, and they created these Creoles, who were, a result of the experiments that we talked about earlier, when they started putting the lighter ones that were born with other light ones. Then that they created that global caste system. So let's look at the origins of the color caste system. Casta is a Spanish word, and it means lineage. It means your lineage. Okay. And in Spanish and Portuguese, and has historically been used as a racial and social identifier. Okay. And that's very important to look at. Okay. Because they always, again, we talked about before that they tell you you're in a capitalism system, but you're really in a feudalism system. Okay. Where you have the kings, the knights, the lords, and the serfs, and the peasants. Okay, it's the same system that they use all around the world, that they use in Europe first. And so when you hear some of our people trying to get brownie points, mainly the coons, they'll say, well, there were slaves, European slaves. Yeah, they always have been. And they started in their own lands. They were indentured servants. But you have servants, but you have to know the difference between an indentured servant who works on a land as a free person, gets free room and board, and they can buy their freedom for their family. So in other words, it's like, I'm hooking you up. I'm bringing you from another state to work for my company. I'll put you up in a hotel, blah, till you get on your feet, blah, blah, blah. But in no way can you compare that to chattel slavery, the breeding farms, and all other stuff that our people had to endure. Okay, so let's not play this silly, childish game. Okay, so we know that this word comes out of the conquistadors brought it here, and they used that same system because they knew it worked. It worked well with the Tainos, because the same thing happens in the Caribbean, in the diaspora. You have these people live on the same land mass that blacker than you and me, but they have separated themselves because of this caste system. So let's look at the social caste system in India, South Africa. Yeah, India and South Africa. So, brother, if you want to put up that one of the pictures, I'll go from there. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's the Indian caste system, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So here we see. Now, I want to say a little something before we actually get into this, because remember we were talking about the video we saw the other day with the East Indian guy asking the black guy for his ID, like he was the police, and the black guy was like, "Let me see your ID." And then he had the nerve to call him a boy. And I'm like, you've been watching too much Fox News sitting in the house. You need to get out. I'm thinking to myself, this guy's really crazy. You're lucky because a lot of black men wouldn't have taken that from him. Okay, so let's get to, so this is the Indian caste system. Now, there's something very interesting about this that we're going to talk about, because this had a major impact on people from that part of the world. And we're going to talk about how the Aryans influenced that part of Asia or in India, or Southern Asia and India, and how that in itself, and the one along with South Africa, when you look at the American, what they did in Mexico, it kind of makes you think to yourself, okay, boy, all of these systems were brutal, but man, you're talking about a psychological ploy. So many black Americans are caught off guard, just like my first time encountering them, by the blatant racism towards them by East Indians. And in most cases, in all the cases I encountered, they are darker than us. Now, again, I want to caution, okay, there's an exception to every rule, but we're talking about people that grew up. This is why you have to give people on an individual basis. You cannot paint a brush. Okay, you have to give people a chance to grow, see their mistakes, okay, and then say, I'm going to do better, okay? Well, one of the reasons our people, and this goes back to this disrespect thing, and what you can understand, because this is in us. No one wants to be disrespected. So our people feel like we don't get the due respect from people that come here from other countries. And so we get angry, and then we want to strike out at them, because remember, in our genetic memory bank, we still carry the pain, and this has been proven. We still carry the pain of the plantation. It was a piece done on the scars of the plantation that still affect us today. That is a fact. In fact, they gave the gene a name. I can't think of it right now. I may think of it before the show is over. But so this is something that's a phenomenon. When you see these people that are blacker than you and I have like a racist or almost like a redneck attitude towards black people, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So what I found was, so let's define these levels first. So the Brahmins, they are those ones that are at the top of there, just like the Planarians, and just like the Spaniards that were at the top with the mestizos. Everywhere you go, they are at the top of the class, that 1% or that 7%. Okay. They're at the top. And now out of this comes their priests and their academic people. Okay. Now, let's talk about, because when I really looked into this, the Indians, man, they did a number on them. They did a real number on them. Okay. The Brahmins are the priests, which means that they are spiritually superior. And they have our people preaching down to our people from pulpits, right? This is where this comes from. Okay. And like that picture you did, the concept where you had the people standing up with some type of authority cloth around their neck and the other one sitting in a recessive position, right? The same concept. So, okay, so as with all of the other colonial heritages in the world, it was European males that essayed the women of India, okay, and that set this mindset into motion. So, yeah, okay, so when we look at the origins of this, I trace this all the way back to their original language, the Indo-Germans, Sanskrit, or the Indo-Europeans. And it's interesting about this language. This language taught that we see that came down in the form of Nazism later, that white and the Europeans were of a pure blood. Okay, this is where this religious superiority that they have taught our people, when if you really are spiritual, you wouldn't be disconnected from each other, or you wouldn't be disconnected from brothers and sisters you see on the street that might be in a more unfortunate position than you're in. But this attitude is because at the top of their, just like here, while they're trying to reinstate Christian nationalism, and we've always said that they've taught you that the church and state are separated. They are not. All you have to do is look at their feudalism system. The ones that were the kings were the ones that established how you were going to worship God that you say you have a free will to do. Okay? Which you don't, according to them. You do, but according to them, you don't. That's what I meant to say. But yeah, and the other thing is they were the educators. So they could take this Indo-Germanic language and its content, okay, and they could use that in their educational system and teach all generations that they were pure and that black was evil. And that they literally taught this. Okay, so we see that class there, and they are, again, that 1% there in their country, but they are the ones that come here, okay, because they come from that class. They don't let, now the ones they let from these other classes below them in this feudalistic type of structure, in this caste system, this second level, the warriors and the kings. So what do? Just like they do with the race soldiers. They get them to police our neighborhoods and keep everybody in check. Or they'll start wars, okay, and they'll go out and use the wars as an excuse for them to continue to subdue people and steal resources. And then you see at the third level, you have the merchants and the landowners. So that's why you see a lot of them, they come here and they buy up, you know, a bunch of land, okay, or a bunch of businesses. And they're the ones that you have to go through, because the system is deep, man. Because not only the way they set it up, I learned this when I was trying to do the import-export thing, is that, you know, they discriminate against Black people when it comes to, if we're not, that's why they got y'all fighting against each other, because if we can't trade with our African brothers and sisters, you ain't gonna be able to trade with China, okay, unless there are certain conditions. You ain't gonna be able to trade with a lot of the Asians. Our sisters used to talk about, and I personally know this, the ones in Oakland, that they used to keep them from getting their most popular items on the shelves. So in effect, they would be trying to kick them out of business or shut them down. And they were the ones that had the manufacturing plants for these products. And what's so crazy is these 85, I think it's 86% of our women are the ones that keep this industry afloat. But yet we have no major subsidiaries. And that is because in the corporate world, they cut off Black people from distribution routes. Study distribution routes. See, this is one of the reasons why other cultures, when they come here, they identify with white. Just like, along with, you know, how they were raised in their own cultures, but they know that the whites discriminate against the Blacks, and if they want to be in a position financially where they can, you know, survive and move forward, then they know that you are the enemy of this system. They know that. I mean, Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles can see that. So this is something that they learn. And when they come here, and you don't have to speak English to learn that. I met this brother. He was from, what was the name of this country? Belize, I think it was. He couldn't speak English at all. Huh?
Belize.
Belize. A lot of them are in New York, right?
Yeah.
That's what
I know a lot of people from Belize.
Back east. And he was telling me that you know, he could speak like a little bit of English, but he knew. I started showing him pictures because I know how to communicate with people. Okay, I started pulling up images and showing him. He said, "Oh yeah, they have a name for Black people there." It's like, "Oh yeah," and then he had like a kind of stressed look on his face. He was like, "Yeah," he was like, "Papa, mama," you know, like that generation. And like, you know, we know better. Mm-hmm. Being in America, we know better. And so this is another thing that they grapple with, that they don't know about our history because they're not taught real Black history. But they're only just taught, you know, about negative stuff. But when they find out the achievements and accomplishments of Black people, it's astonishing to them. And so a lot of them, and when I say them, I'm saying people outside of the United States, wherever you may be, I don't care where you come from, they have to rely on the media to get their information about Black people. So the way it's set up is, when you come to America, the only people you got to worry about is them ends. Now I'm going to say it, them niggas. That's the only ones you're going to have. And if you want to be a part of our program, you got to go to war with them. That's what this brother from Belize told me.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, and he was saying his family was back in New York, and he was out here because he was a smart guy. He was going to Berkeley, and he
Wow.
said but the and again I forget the name that he used for black people, but he said are not what we were told. I was like, okay, yeah, I know that. He was like, look at you, Neil. I said, yeah. I said, but they only talk to you guys about what they call the ghetto. They go get them, get this ratchet behavior, and then they want to say that, man, let me tell you something. Not only was America built by black folks and the inventions that were given to America and the world, okay, we help educate America,
You
okay?
go.
You know how many black, there are more black women that are, they are the highest level of educators in the country in terms of, education, degrees. And that's something, but they only show you the ones that's twerking. Now, I don't put those,
Exactly.
yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
don't put those sisters down. And I'm going to
Right.
tell you why, because everybody is a product of their environment.
Yeah.
So when you look at a person, you're looking at least one generation above them. That's where you got to
Mm-hmm.
start. Just
Mm-hmm.
like when I listen to people talk, I want to know where you were taught. Where did you get these talking? Because that means everything. Were you taught the truth, or were you taught a watered down black coffee? I put cream in it. Were you taught that? Because they are
Right.
totally opposite. But yeah, this Indian thing is deep, man. And we're going to talk about why it's deep. So they brought that into India, the Aryans, with Sanskrit, and they taught them that these different levels, these were the people that ran their society. And now another interesting thing though. Now it does get lighter the higher you go up, always, right? But there are some Brahmins that are blacker than you and me put together. But they're always in the high echelon of European government and society. In their that's why you see so many of them in the tech industry, because they are used to running the religious and academic structures in their country. You see, that's why they're that way. And so when they start coming across black people in academia that is smarter than them, they got a problem, because this is not what, because they deny dark people, unless you come from that lineage, they deny you any type of way of moving up that ladder. So
Right
next,
about that.
this, huh?
I say you're right about that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, they got this system down. Oh, and we're gonna see why they got it down so good. And then you get that fourth class, the Sudra, which is the commoners or the peasants and the servants. So, like I always say, this is the feudalism system. Okay, this is where, but they tell you you're in a capitalism system. Well, the corporations are capitalists; they're ran by capitalists. The government is ran by capitalists, but everything else in society is not. It's a feudalism system. And even the capitalists that run uh, America, they are still subject to this. So, and there you see at the bottom, just like you saw in the Latin culture with the mulattoes, and it's the same thing, the same idea. The untouchables, that's what they call them. In other words, now, well, I ain't gonna shame their country, but when you see India and you see the poverty there, you think in your mind, how could these people, how could you turn up your nose when you shitting in a pit in the street? How how could you turn your nose up to black people? all these cows, because they don't believe in killing cows, because the cow is considered sacred. And that goes all the way back to African theology with Bess. Not Bess, the mother cow. I can't think of her name anyway, but that goes way back into antiquity. And all of our deities were the first deities in all the lands that they visited. But the untouchables were the outcasts. They were the street sweepers and the latrine cleaners. So latrine is like the pit in the street. So this is how they look at you when they see you. Okay, brother. Thank you.
Okay.
This is how they look at you when they see you. Now, so let's look at why they became this way and why they're that way. So the Aryans and the Indo-Aryans when taught that black skin was evil and that white was pure and that it was spiritually superior. And they taught that if you intermingled with a lower class, then you were. This is why they have that scenario about heaven and the angels and demons and all of this. Is because they taught them that the evil people or the demons were the black darker race. Okay, so the Aryans are an Indo-Germanic people, and these are the people that self-destruction in India that we just looked at. Now imagine this. The Aryans are an Indo-Germanic people and one of three branches of the Caucasian or white race. They are divided into the Western European, German, Roman, Slav, Celt, and Albanese. And the Eastern, Asiatic, Aryans, Indian, Hindu. Okay. So the Indian Hindu, this is the religion where they brought, like we were saying in the beginning, they brought religion and they brought force. Okay. So so they're even considered, I mean, their indoctrination was so deep that the Indians actually considered themselves as Europeans. But this group of people, they settled in Europe thousands of years earlier. Okay, so that is why you see this type of behavior when it comes to America and people coming here from other countries, because in their own country, they have been taught this about Black people and Black men in particular. Now, so now you can see why whenever you go to any country and the ruling class, they have vaults with the pictures of real history of Black people, right? The real spiritual creators of the planet, the real educators. They have those in vaults for a reason. Okay, so I felt the need to put this out there today because it's almost like, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to say that they are this. I'm just trying to say, imagine if you were taught something all your life. Oh, thank you, Richards. Think about this. So you got 3 children, you go take a DNA test, and none of those children are yours. That's the type of feeling that I'm hearing from the ones who are like this one young Latin guy. I heard him say that he couldn't relate to how Black people always saying they were being racially profiled. He said he didn't even know how. He was like, well, I'm brown, they don't bother me. Now he said this was like 10 years ago. He is like, and they don't bother me. So you must be provoking them, or you're doing something that is causing them to react in this way. And then he said, now he totally gets it. So as we know, and nature teaches us this, that experience is our greatest teacher. I don't care how much academic training you have. If you don't have experience in life, or what they call street smarts, you're going to get snowed under with certain things. Okay? And the level of deception that has been used against our people is something that, again, when you examine history and you see what we talked about today, it still kind of blows your mind a little bit that someone would think in their mind that, but so they knew, like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was saying, that the fear of genetic annihilation, and I love how she used different concepts with the balls, right? And that one game in particular, when you look at pool, the white ball has to knock the black ball into Mother Earth to subdue it or to win the game. But conceptually, psychologically, that's you conquering the black world. And with that, brother, I think I'll close it today.
Thank you so much, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You'll never hear me close it when you're on here talking. Right? You're going for 6-7 hours. I'm gonna sit here and listen.
Yeah, you've never done that. And I appreciate that, because a lot of it is, it's when you know that you've gotten out what you need to get out for people to grasp.
That's what it is.
Yeah, there's no need to go on after that. I heard myself talk enough. So,
no. But what I'm saying is that when you're on a field, when you're on a roll, when you're in that gear, you're supposed to just keep going.
That's right.
It's like creatively, if I'm doing something and it's time for me to go to bed, or I project the time to go to bed, and I'm feeling it, I'm gonna keep on going. That's right. Because we want that feeling of continuity and unison with that energy that comes. Sometimes you want to do something and the energy and the feel is not there.
Yes.
And other times it's effortless. So you have to roll with it. It's beyond our mind, like beyond what we say. When it happens, roll with it.
Yes. And you know what's it's almost like possession.
Yeah.
When that energy, that's why it's important to have, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, priorities in terms of, your time, and you control that, not some other entity or outside entity.
Right.
But when that time comes for that priority that you set, then you have to put it in motion, because it's not just you.
Right.
It's the energy that's coming through you for that time. And that's one of the things we miss too, that religion did to us, by having to have somebody, that name our people love, in between you and getting natural download.
Right. They can't summon it for you. You have to be directly in position to summon it for yourself.
Yes. And it don't have the same effect. And that's one of the things I see with artificial intelligence. One of the dangers is, no matter how you look at it, you have a foreign or artificial or inorganic intelligence that's between you and the download, right? And also the manifestation. That's what I meant. So it's something that you can see our people are, and this is why they're angry and got the coons like woke, and all this, because our people have awakened.
Yeah,
making smart decisions. One of the areas I'd like our people, again, This is why I always say you can't have butterfly conversations with caterpillar people. What I appreciate about you and the other family in the chat room and wherever you are is that you know that there are things that we're not just talking about, but your actions. On the one hand, we know these evil, wicked people are trying to divide the diaspora. So they get you caught up into insignificant things that you're arguing over. But I'm going to tell you something I learned when I was dealing with the import-export business. One of the reasons why Black people have problems setting up storefronts or any type of warehouse or whatever is because you have active companies that are in the distribution, manufacturing and distribution industry that actively keep Black people from getting inventory. Now, I don't want to sound like a pessimist. It is possible to get these items. You can do anything you want. I'm just saying that a lot of people, they get discouraged when they run into this roadblock. So believe it or not, now you got all these people telling you to fight against Africans and telling Africans to fight against African Americans, which I think is a major mistake for Africans or the diaspora, because African Americans have the greatest consumability, if I can use that word, in the world in terms of Black people. Okay, this is a fact. So you just like these dummies. If you have a business and yet you deport 100% of your workers, what are you expecting?
That's right.
What type of outcome are you when you can't do it? What do you expect? So you didn't take into consideration. And brother, let me tell you something. Oh man, you remember that vision I told you about some time ago about when I saw these 8-9 foot alien looking dressed in these suits, these war outfits, almost like a futuristic, with these big guns, AR-15s, standing in front of all the grocery stores. And I woke up in a sweat. That day is coming.
It's coming.
Because now we don't have any, this is what people don't know. While you on here arguing, you better have your own garden. Or know somebody with a garden. Right. Unless I know you don't have that problem. Your wife is a natural,
that's a
botanist.
Gift. Yeah.
You blessed in that area, brother. But they get ready to shut the light. Because what it's going to come down to, it's going to come down to just like triage, like they do in war. They only use the resources on those that can get back in the fight. The rest of you, hope you make it. We're going to fly you back to the infirmary and good luck. But what we have right here, this is triage. So when things get tight, when white America has a cold, we have the flu. And there are some angry white people out here, brother. Because now they're feeling what Black folks have always had to go through, which is not easy. This is why sometimes I give our people a break, brother. The things that they have done to our people, but there is no excuse for a lot of our actions. I'm not trying to excuse that. But the reality is that they know that with a level playing field, we will outdo them. That's one of their fears. Not just genetic annihilation physically, but in every other way. And also the fear they have. Now, there are some Black people out here that have that mentality. Oh, you remember what y'all did to my folks? Remember that? Guess what? Somebody gonna pay for it. Like Paul Mooney said. Oh, you got 5 personalities, nigga?
Pick one.
Yeah, pick one, okay? Because one of y'all get ready to do 2,000 years, okay? I don't know which personality it is. Well, white folks say, oh, interesting. That's a study. We need to study that and see why we have civil. So even though it's the same language, it means something different for our people. But yeah, what I was going to say is the one thing I wish our people would do is to dial it back a little bit emotionally. Because see, that just works against us. And use your wisdom. You know, you're a great and mighty people. Sit back and look at things.
Mm-hmm.
This is why our kids have no filter. They don't know how to de-escalate situations. They don't know how to talk through. Why? Because they see you arguing with everybody, including your mama, daddy, cousin, whoever. So how are they going to learn how to deal with things and keep the Black community function? Because ain't nobody else going to do. This is the final thing I'll say. I'll have to give Dr. Claude Anderson his props. This man been telling us this for over 40 years, that you have to have Team Black, okay? And if you don't have Team Black, okay, then you're subject to all of the other color scheme teams.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm playing for, say, the Warriors, and I got on a Lakers jersey, what does that tell you? And when this lack, because there are no crops, there are no harvesting of the crops. See, you can't get away from the natural system. You have to plant, and then you have to harvest, and somebody has to do that. Somebody has to do that. These people you see walking around with suitcases and stuff like that, they're the ones that got people in diamond mines. Somebody have to get those diamonds out the mine. Somebody have to get the gold. Okay. And so they mad at you because you're no longer where they got free labor from you. It's like going back to somebody helped make you wealthy, but now you can't make them do it again.
Right.
If you threaten them, they can come back at you legally. So all these things come into play. But yeah, my brother, I see you holding on to the belts. That Saturday night, I got a chance to look at some of it and a couple other videos. You attack it in the right area because, see, our people need to grow up in some areas, okay? That's just the bottom line. And we ain't got time to play games with each other, and ain't nobody bad. I need to grow up in some areas too. But the primary areas that I need to function effectively in my life and to help others do that, I, work on that every day. And so,
it's evident. Thank you.
Yeah, like you, brother. I mean, you set the blueprint for us, and then we go. Yeah. So I'll talk to you next week, brother. I got some good information to share with you.
Thank you. Yes. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
And I'll be here waiting for you, brother. Shoot me a message as much as you need.
Have a good week. Kudos to the family. I'll talk to you guys next week.
Most definitely. Thank you, brother.
All right, brother. Peace and love.
Much love. Much love. Yes. I'm going to do a little something and present something before the evening is over. And I love the way he talks and the way he puts it down. I can't wait for it to come around every Monday night. And we've been pushing hard. Got to catch up on some sleep. We got one more thing to do, and we're going to burn through it through the week. And I look forward to next Saturday, open mic. Yes, indeed. We're going to do it again. Just open mic, and we're going to talk about certain things. I believe we're going to talk about BBLs and the mental, the spiritual perspectives on it, what makes a woman want to do it. And then once we cook that topic, everybody can come on in a free flow, join the conversation, and we can take it to other places. It's just laid back, relaxed conversation as though we're all in the living room. So we're going to do it that way, old school, the original style. And I'm looking forward to everybody being there. And I'll put the link out when I create it, probably another day or two. Being that today's Monday, so it'll hang in the air and you'll see it. And much love to everybody here. Thank you for coming through. I'm going to sign off, but trust me, just when you least expect it, we're going to pop back on with something. We're going to do that tonight. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful wonderful evening. Landscape out, peace, much love, and we're going to do this again. Thank you so much.